So last week we started this series all about picking up our cross and following Christ. And we talked an awful lot last week about what it means to really pick up your cross and what that looked like in a first century world. In a first century world, this idea of picking up your cross would have seemed terrifying. It wouldn't have been something that seemed like just a casual comment. I think often when we hear of the cross today, it's become so commonplace amongst Christianity that it becomes more of a casual talking point. But for Jesus and his followers in the first century, to pick up your cross was terrifying. To pick up your cross meant that you were going to one of the most excruciating deaths ever created by mankind. To pick up your cross meant that you were going to be tortured. And so Jesus in chapter 9, when he says, if you want to follow me, in the 9th chapter of Luke, pick up your cross, he is literally saying, get ready for death. And last week we talked about how difficult it is because there are some things in our lives that we literally need to put to death. We all have some things in our lives that we need just ripped out of us, that we need to be honest, and we need to just put those things to death. And I think that if Jesus were standing before us today, he would say, when you pick up your cross daily and you follow me, and you are working on those things and you are rooting those things out of your life, you are picking up your cross and you're saying, I am putting this to death. I am going to follow Jesus. And maybe for you, it's pornography, or maybe for you, it's just this idea that you have to be the most important person, or maybe for you, you have to have the best of the best things. Maybe for you, it's drugs or alcohol. Whatever it may be, Jesus encourages us to pick up our cross and follow him. And we compare this to the fall versus the spring. We want our lives to be like spring, where it's vibrant and bright and the colors are popping and there's growth. And a lot of times this world sets us up with this idea that says, if you do this, it is going to be spring in your life. There's going to be just this incredible life, and it's going to be vibrant and exciting and exhilarating. Just do this. But Jesus says, start in the fall. Let's pick up our cross. Let's walk through when things are dying, when things are passing away, when things are being rooted out of our lives. And I think it's really cool what he does here. If you look in Luke chapter 9, he says this. He said, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. We talked about that last week. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But for whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. I love what Jesus does here. Jesus takes the exact argument that Satan throws at us every single time we start to think, all right, I really need to do something about this thing in my life. Whenever we start to think, man, I really need to do something about this thing in my life, Satan tends to throw this argument at us that says, no. Because if you are honest about that, your life is over. If you tell a trusted adult what you're really dealing with, you will never be the same person again. Your life is going to be over. And Jesus says, exactly. Because if you really want to save your life, you'll lose a part of it in the short term. True life comes when we root out and we put to death the things inside of us that need put to death. True life comes when we recognize that the real life we're searching for is found in Christ. and not found in the things that this world is telling us about. And I encouraged you guys last week to talk to a trusted adult. I encouraged you not to wait to just approach someone and say, here it is. And I hope that you have done that. And I hope that you have taken advantage of that. And if you haven't, I hope that you'll do that this week. See, here's what happens, is Jesus says whoever would save his life is actually going to lose it. And what happens is, we get in this idea that, man, if I really tell someone that I'm struggling with this, I'm going to lose my life. And everything is going to fall apart. And Satan says, you don't want to do that. You don't want your life to completely fall apart. And so what do? We take it and we hide it and we stuff it down and we keep it inside us and we pretend like everything is okay and we've got it all together and we don't struggle with anything. And slowly but surely, what it is that really we need to be honest about with a trusted adult begins to fester, and we begin to become isolated, and we begin to step back, and we begin to push people away, and we begin to build up walls. And as we push people away, and we build up walls, and we step back, what happens is we actually lose the life we're searching for. And we become alone and isolated. And in an effort to save our life, we actually lose it. And Jesus says, but whoever loses his life for my sake will actually save it. Jesus says if you are honest, if you're willing to do the hard work of saying, all right, I've got to tackle this. At the end of it, you will find the actual life you've been searching for. Have you ever had one of those moments where something was taken from you, or maybe not on like a huge scale, like you made a huge confession, but there was just something in your life that you didn't get, that you thought, man, my life is done, I'm not sure where I'm headed, and it ended up being a better thing. I remember it was about this time of year, fall of 2001. I was 17 years old, I was a senior in high school, and I was finally going to get to play varsity soccer. I was pumped. And see, I had played soccer since the time that I was in kindergarten. While I wasn't a fantastic or great soccer player, I was a hard worker, and I was really, really excited to play on the varsity team. Freshman year, I thought that I'm not going to make varsity, and I didn't. I made JV. Sophomore year, I thought I had a chance, but I didn't make varsity. I played on JV, but I watched some of the younger freshmen step up to the varsity level. Junior year, I was told by the coach that if I continued to play as I did, that I would make varsity as a junior, but our coaches switched, and I watched some younger kids step into varsity. And so senior year, I was like, man, this is my year. I'm going to play varsity. And so I go to the first soccer practice. It's 2 a days. We went from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening. Then I went and I worked and I hustled. And at the end of the first week of 2 a days, I made varsity. Dude, I was pumped. I was excited. And I went and I got my jersey and I was like, yes, this is awesome. I'm so excited. I'm going to get to play varsity soccer. And so I was just on cloud 9, right? Like, senior year, I'm playing varsity soccer. This is going to be incredible, right? And so, second week of 2 days, I go and, man, I'm working with the team, and I get super excited because I hear the coach at practices every once in a while say, good ball, CJ. And I'm like, yes, this is going awesome. This is going so well. The second to last day, I injured my Achilles tendon, right? And so I went to the trainer, and they were like, well, sit out the last 2 practices of your 2 days. Sit out the last day. And so being a part of the team, I brought my lawn chair, and I sat down, and, just kind of watching practice, and the coach gets the drills going and gets the team going, and then he walks over to me and he says, "Hey, how you doing? Things going well? How's your ankle? Is it doing okay?" And then he says, "I just don't think you have what it takes." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we don't have a spot for you on varsity. I just don't think that you have what it takes to be a varsity soccer player." And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this sucks, right? Like, you could have told me this at the end of the first week of two-a-days, but now I've gone through 2 weeks of two-a-days, and like this is the fall of my senior year. I've played soccer every single year, and then he says, we do need a manager. And I was like, and so I'm like, I go home and I'm just like totally dejected. I go back that night, I hand in my uniform, my jersey, and I tell him that I'm not super interested in being the manager. Thank you though. And I was just like, man, what does this mean for me in my fall, right? But the craziest thing happened is because I didn't play soccer and I didn't have those practices every single day after school, I was able to get involved in all kinds of other stuff. And so I was like school spirit guy, and I was part of the FCA, and I was just involved in student council and all kinds of stuff. And I will never forget, one day I was doing a community service project for FCA. And we were loading up the back of a pickup truck with like canned goods or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But I remember standing in the back of the pickup truck, and I look over to my left, and there's the soccer team practicing. And this epiphany occurs in my head that life here in this pickup truck and all the things that I'm involved in and all the friends that I've made and all the time that I have to build into those relationships is so much better than it would have been practicing soccer right now. It was this crazy shift of just being like, where's my life heading to? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I remember in my early 20s, I've said this before, but I went through a time of depression, and I went through a time of depression because there were some things that I just needed to root out of my life. There were some difficult conversations that I needed to have, and I just needed to put some things to death. And it was hard. It's some of the most difficult conversations I have ever had to have in my life. And I remember walking through that thinking, my life is over. It's over. I have blown it. It is shot. There is no coming back from this. And I remember thinking, if I can just put this part of me to death, no matter what it takes, if I can put this part of me to death, life on the other side is going to be easier. And guys, it was like a year of depression and hard work and difficult times and just this idea of, oh man, where is my life headed? But I can honestly stand before you today right now and tell you that if I had not lost my life then and put that part of me to death, I would not be before you today. Everything in my life is better because that part of me is no longer a part of me. I kid you not, everything. My relationship with God is better. My relationship with my wife is better. My relationship with my kids is better. My working relationship is better. I'm in a better place in every sense of the word. But I would not have this life if I had not lost that part of my life and gone through the difficulties of putting part of me to death. Have you ever been through something like that? Maybe for you it's been something small, like not making the varsity soccer team, which is big in the moment. Maybe for you it's something big and you've had to have some honest conversations with your parents or another trusted adult. But there's a moment where when you get to the other side, you realize this is true. This is so true. That if you try to save your own life and keep it hidden and keep it bottled up and put up the walls, you are going to be isolated and ultimately you are going to die. Maybe not physically die, but in every sense of the word, your life will not be this full, amazing life that you want. But if you can lose your life for Jesus' sake, and you can put to death some of the things that you need to put to death, you'll realize you have true life. I love what Jesus says in the book of John. Jesus is talking about how he is the good shepherd and how he leads his sheep, and his sheep know him, and he goes on this whole discourse about how he loves the sheep and the sheep love him and they know his voice, and the stranger tries to come and the stranger tries to lead the sheep, and the sheep don't know the stranger's voice, and the sheep scatter when the stranger tries to lead them to a different place. And in John chapter 10 verse 10 it says this: the thief, or the stranger, comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. And let's go back to this previous slide here, because I think this is so true for our relationship with the things that we need to root out. I mean, like, you look at Jesus, his relationship with the sheep is intimate. He has a relationship that recognizes his voice and he leads the sheep. Now, when you lead the sheep, I saw a video like 6 months ago of these people leading sheep across this river that was rushing pretty solidly. And they had like 2 or 3 dogs that were like nipping at the sheep's heels, and the sheep were afraid of the water, and they had to get to the water and through the woods on the other side in order to find a green pasture. And at times, Jesus takes us through some pretty difficult things in order to get to true life and the green pasture that we seek on the other side. But ultimately, he leads us and the sheep to a better life. The stranger, he tries to lead the sheep, but he has no relationship, so he scares the sheep and the sheep end up running. Now, when sheep run, they scatter. And scattered sheep end up isolated, and isolated sheep end up in danger of predators. Guys, when we try to save our own lives, when we try to hide the things that we need to root out, we are being led by a stranger. And ultimately, that's what it leads to. It leads to isolation, which is just going to lead us to more danger. And Jesus says, in John 10, chapter 10, I came to give you life. And to give you this abundant, amazing, incredible life. And a lot of times when we hear that verse, we think that this abundant, amazing, incredible life starts after we die when we get to heaven. But that's not true. This abundant, amazing, incredible life starts now while you are in middle school and high school. Jesus came so that you can have life and have it abundantly and amazingly and fully right now. Right now. And we may have to go through some more troubling, difficult times. We may have to have some more honest conversations to get to the green pasture that Jesus is leading us to. But it is so worth it. It is so worth it to find the life that Jesus offers. There is nothing better than the life that Jesus offers. Here's the truth, guys. Yes, it starts in the fall. We've all messed up. We all need to be honest about that. We all need to talk to trusted adults. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter what I have done. There is nothing that is too great. Because Jesus is right there saying, I know. I know that's who you are. Come on, I want to lead you somewhere you've never even experienced before. He said, I know what you've done. I know who you've been. And here's the truth. I love you. Now let's go to some greener pastures together. And it may mean you have to cross some rivers. It may mean you have to go through some briars. But at the end of it, it's going to be greener pastures because Jesus came to offer us life and offer it abundantly. And so I want to encourage you guys. What is it for you? What is it for you that you just need to root out? What is it for you that as you look at the leaves that are falling on the trees to make way for the green leaves next spring, you think, that needs to come out of me so that there can be new leaves next spring? I always give a really practical challenge. And the practical challenge is the same as last week. Because I've been there, and I know that probably, if you're honest, most of you did not have the conversation that you should have had last week. Most of you put it off. And tonight's a new opportunity. This week is a new opportunity for you to say, this is the thing for me. This is the thing that I need to be honest about, that I need to put to death in my own life. And so I want to encourage you, whatever that may be, talk to a trusted adult. That's really important, the trusted adult part. Make sure you are talking to a trusted adult. And just be honest and ask for help. And if you've already had that conversation, I want to encourage you to continue to be honest with that trusted adult. Allow them to check in on you. Allow them to ask questions. Allow them to encourage you in your walk with Christ. Because Jesus says, if you try to save your life, you're going to lose it. But if you are willing to lose your life for me, you will save it.